The most dangerous thing is not the enemy from without, but misunderstanding the instructions of the one we believe in. For centuries, believers have been taught that when the end times come, they must rise up to fight, even against the Antichrist, the opponent of Christ. But did you know? Jesus never told us to fight him. He didn't encourage us to take up weapons or confront him like warriors. Instead, he said something entirely different, a surprising yet loving and strategic command: flee. In Matthew 24, Jesus doesn't say, "Fight for me," but rather, "Flee to the mountains." Why? Because survival doesn't lie in the strength of our hands, but in absolute obedience. This might go against our instincts, but it is this humility, this sensitivity to obeying His word, that will save us in the darkest times. The true battle is not on the outside, but within our hearts, discerning the call of Christ amid a multitude of other noises. So if what God calls us to is not to fight, but to flee, then what does He truly want us to prepare for? The answer doesn't lie in finding shelter or stockpiling food, but in something quieter, a community of obedience. When God tells His people to flee to the mountains, it's not just an act of escape, but an invitation to a spiritual safe haven, where those who heed His voice will be preserved. Imagine in a world of chaos, where truth is distorted and fear spreads, there's a group of people who don't act on instinct, but according to the Word. They don't rally for resistance or build war fortresses, they build a family of faith, a place filled with love, care, and trust in God's plan. Not everyone will understand them, just as Noah was misunderstood while building the ark under clear skies. But it's this quiet obedience that sets them apart, and ensures their survival. For God doesn't seek the strongest, but those willing to listen and follow Him, even when it seems counterintuitive. And it is through that quiet obedience that God is building something greater than mere survival, a community bearing the imprint of heaven amid a decaying world. As the world descends into darkness, the smallest lights become the most visible. The community God calls us to is not a noisy, bustling one. It is families living together, loving one another, sharing every loaf of bread, every prayer. They don't need grand churches or high pulpits. They are the living church in everyday life. Like the early church after Pentecost, they went from house to house, broke bread together, and found favor with all the people, and the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. No signs, no grand missionary plans are needed, just genuine living, authentic love, and faithfulness to the small tasks God entrusts. In that simplicity lies a quiet power, the power of love expressed through action. And from these small groups, God is preparing something great. A church of the obedient, ready for the day of His return. From those small, loving groups, a silent yet powerful wave is rising, not to conquer the world, but to prepare for a kingdom that is not of this world. When Jesus returns, He will not be seeking a large but loveless church. He is looking for a true, holy, and faithful bride, ready to step into the wedding feast of the Lamb amid trials. This is no longer the time to chase grand programs or flashy events. It's the time to return to the first love, where our relationship with God is placed above all else. He is testing our hearts. Who will stand firm when everything around them collapses? Who will continue to gather, pray, and love even without a stage? Who will remain faithful in the smallest things, even when no one is watching? The church of the last days will not be outwardly magnificent, but it will shine brightly with faith and love. And each of us is invited to become a living stone in that temple. Not by our own strength, but through the guidance of the Holy Spirit and the love we have for our King. When each believer is called to become a living stone in that spiritual temple, God does not leave us alone on this journey. He gives us the most precious gift, Himself, through the living and powerful Holy Spirit. Did you know? The Holy Spirit is not just a vague concept or a complex doctrine. He is a living presence, a silent yet powerful companion on every step of our walk with God. He is there when you're too weary to pray. He whispers when your heart is in turmoil. He lifts you up when you feel like giving up. It is the Holy Spirit who is training the church of the last days, not in the ways of man, but in the ways of the kingdom, with humility, obedience, and an abundance of love. He places within the hearts of those who love Him an unquenchable desire to draw closer to God and to live out the purpose He has set. And you can be a part of this work, not needing titles or positions, just a heart ready to say, "Lord, here I am. Use me." When a person is ready to say to God, "Here I am, use me," it is at that very moment that the Holy Spirit begins a deep work, not only to transform that individual, but also to prepare the church for a greater mission. Have you ever felt God quietly calling you to step into something beyond your abilities? Something that makes your heart race with excitement, yet also fills you with worry because you feel unprepared? Don't be afraid. Because what God seeks is not perfect people, but those who are willing. The church of the last days is not built by human strategies, but by individuals living under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, bravely stepping out of their comfort zones and fully embracing an eternal purpose. They don't wait until they feel capable to start, they begin so that God can train them. You don't need to know the entire journey. You only need to take one step. Because when you step out, you'll realize, God has been there waiting for you. And He will never let you go alone. This is not just the start of a new season, it's the moment to step into your destiny within God's plan. When a person bravely steps forward and says, "Here I am, use me," God not only transforms their life but also begins to open doors leading to the destiny He has prepared. Yet this journey will always come with a call to pay a price. Following God has never been an easy path. Those whom He uses most powerfully are often the ones who have endured the fiercest spiritual battles, emotional struggles, and even seasons of loneliness. There will be moments when you ask yourself, "Lord, am I really on the right path?" Because the closer you get to the center of His will, the more you must let go of things that once seemed important: comfort, the approval of others, and sometimes even close relationships. But it is in that surrender that you will find an unshakable freedom. You will realize that the price of obedience pales in comparison to the glory God is preparing to reveal. And every step you take, no matter how challenging, will become part of a greater story. The story that the Creator is writing through your life. Obeying God comes with a price, but it is through that cost that we get to see Him work in miraculous ways. And then, there are moments, when everything seems hopeless, that are precisely when God steps in the most unexpected way. I recall one evening, after months of exhaustion from stepping out in obedience to His call without seeing results. My heart felt empty, my prayers seemed unheard, and I began to doubt, have I gotten it wrong? But right then, a message arrived from a stranger. They said, because of what you shared, I've found hope again. I broke into tears. Not because of the praise, but because God had just reminded me, He is still at work, even when I can't see it. Sometimes, God doesn't break down a big door, He simply cracks open a sliver of light. Yet that small ray is enough to illuminate the entire journey ahead. If you're at the end of your strength right now, remember, it might be the starting point of a miracle. For God often chooses to appear when we are exhausted, so that no one can take the glory except Him. When God shows us He is at work, even in the smallest things, our faith is strengthened, and our steps grow more steady. But how do we hold on to that faith when challenges continue to surround us? I recall a time when, after experiencing small miracles, a great storm hit my life. Plans were upended, close relationships fell apart, and my heart was as turbulent as a stormy sea. There were moments when I thought I would collapse and give up entirely. But it was in those times that I remembered God's words, have faith, even if it's as small as a mustard seed. I began to learn to let go of what I couldn't control, placing my full trust in Him, even without knowing what the future held. Miraculously, when we put faith first, He does not leave us alone. No matter how fierce the storm, God is the one steering the ship of our lives, guiding us through every raging wave. You may not see the destination, but trust the one leading the way. For it is only by walking in faith that we discover the true strength within ourselves and in God. When faith has helped us stand firm amid the storms, it is patience and trust in God's plan that will open new doors we never imagined. There was a time when I thought I had failed completely. Everything seemed closed off, with no way out, and I didn't know what to do next. But instead of giving up, I chose to hold on to patience and keep praying, placing my full trust in God. As time passed, good things began to emerge, but not in the way I had expected. A new door opened, bringing opportunities one had never considered before. The people I had met, the challenges I had faced, all seemed like bricks building a path to lasting success. That's when I realized that the road isn't always straight or smooth, but with faith and patience, every step holds meaning. You too, persevere in faith, no matter how difficult today feels. Because when we trust in God's plan, the most wonderful things will come at the right time. When patience and faith guide the way, we come to realize that true strength doesn't only come from great successes, but also from how we face and overcome the small challenges in life. There was a day when everything seemed to be going smoothly, but I suddenly encountered obstacles that felt insurmountable. Feelings of disappointment and exhaustion crept in, but deep down, I recalled the lessons of perseverance and trust from days past. I began to see things differently. Each difficulty became an opportunity to learn and grow. Those victories contributed to building a solid foundation for the journey ahead. It was in those moments of apparent weakness that I found a great source of strength, realizing that I don't need to be perfect or magnificent right away. What matters is having the courage to stand up and keep moving forward, slowly but surely. You too, don't fear the small challenges, for they are the stepping stones that bring you closer to your dreams and growth. Sometimes, the greatest strength lies in not giving up.